Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into something that, let's be honest, you and I interact with every single day, usually with total disgust. But guess what? It actually happens to be the foundation of one of the most incredible economic transformations happening right now. We're talking about garbage. India is facing a monumental waste problem. But where most people just see these towering landfills and polluted rivers, a new wave of visionary founders, well, they're seeing an absolute gold mine.
And I want to anchor our attention right on this staggering number, $31.5 billion. That is the current estimated size of India's waste management market. To put that into perspective for you, this hidden market is already larger than India's entire edtech sector and its booming gaming industry combined. There's literally no comparison. And it's definitely not slowing down. It's compounding at over 12% every single year.
Every single day, India generates 1.7 lakh tons of garbage. For context, if you placed that daily volume next to a landmark like the Taj Mahal, the trash would tower over it. The sheer size of that pile is only half the problem. A quarter of this waste is completely untreated. Almost 40,000 tons of trash bypasses any formal system every day, ending up in open landfills, burned for heat, or choking vital waterways. This shows an expensive economic contradiction. On the left, domestic waste volumes are climbing. On the right, capital outflow rises to import raw materials like virgin plastics and lithium. We are throwing away the very resources we pay foreign countries to supply. The government addressed this inefficiency in 2022 with the Extended Producer Responsibility Mandate, or EPR. This law makes corporations legally responsible for the end of life of their products. If a company sells plastic bottles or smartphones, they must retrieve and recycle them or pay massive penalties. This pressure is mounting alongside the electric vehicle boom. By 2030, an estimated 2.5 million tons of lithium-ion batteries will reach end of life in India, creating a massive wave of high-tech chemical waste. This intersection of legal mandates and exploding waste volumes has transformed India's garbage into a $31.5 billion domestic ore, ready for extraction. Extracting that value required organizing a billion-dollar industry that was almost entirely invisible. Historically, massive brands had no digital way to track or purchase discarded materials from the thousands of informal scrap workers spread across the country. This diagram shows how a startup called Recykal bridged that gap with a three-sided digital marketplace. It connects waste generators like factories and IT parks with local aggregators, and finally with multinational brands like Coca-Cola and Samsung. Within this network, massive consumer brands can source verified recycled materials to hit their EPR targets. Capital travels from the multinationals through the platform to local workers, ensuring fair prices and a traceable supply chain. Digitizing this supply chain provided the consistent flow of raw materials needed for physical refining companies to scale their operations. One such company, Attero, intercepts massive quantities of discarded laptops, smartphones, and circuit boards before they reach informal processors, who often burn them in the open, releasing toxic fumes. Attero uses a proprietary chemical process to recover the precious metals inside these gadgets. While the global average for extracting gold, silver, and palladium from e-waste is around 75%, Attero achieves a 98% recovery rate. Another startup, Lohum, is applying this extraction logic to the 2.5 million tons of dead EV batteries expected to retire by the end of the decade. This sequence shows Lohum's processing technology, which breaks batteries down into their raw components. They produce recycled battery salts that are chemically identical to freshly mined lithium, nickel, and cobalt. Since India currently imports most of the materials for its automotive sector, this domestic processing directly reduces the country's reliance on foreign, often Chinese-controlled, supply chains. Lohum and Attero operate as critical material refiners, actively building India's strategic national reserves of lithium, cobalt, and gold. This logic of urban mining extends to everyday goods. For years, FMCG brands in India imported virgin plastic from countries like Saudi Arabia just to make shampoo bottles, because local recycled plastic was too low in quality. Banyan Nation mapped networks of rack pickers to secure a steady supply of this discarded plastic. Their proprietary cleaning technology turns processed local waste into high-quality material that meets US and European safety standards for consumer brands. Even cultural waste is being re-engineered. Every year, 800 million tons of flowers are offered in temples and mosques. Most of these end up in rivers, where pesticide runoff pollutes the water. A startup called Phool intercepts these offerings and uses advanced chemistry to convert the organic waste into a luxury vegan leather called Fleather. The material has already secured orders from high-end fashion brands in Europe and the US. Applying deep tech to localized waste streams solves a major pollution problem while creating products that compete at the highest levels of the global market. These companies are currently profitable, cash flow positive, and doubling their revenue year over year. They have turned a disposal crisis into a series of highly successful industrial businesses. After building a functional model within one of the world's most complex waste environments, these firms are now exporting their extraction infrastructure to the rest of the globe. This diagram illustrates the expansion. Recykal is deploying its software in Saudi Arabia, while Attero and Lohum are building physical refining plants in Poland, the United States, and the UAE. Despite this progress, massive sectors remain untapped. India is a global leader in textile production, yet there is no major startup tackling fast fashion recycling at scale. The same opportunity exists for billions of tons of construction and demolition debris. As global resources become harder to extract, the definition of a mine is shifting. The nations that build the best technology to recover the materials of their past will control the critical supply chains of the future.
The era of looking at garbage as just some local municipal nuisance, that is officially over. It is now a critical supply chain component for energy security, manufacturing, and global sustainability. So I'll leave you with this thought as we wrap up today's explainer. Look around you. What hidden gold mine is buried in your daily waste, just waiting for the right technology to unlock its value? Thank you so much for learning with us, and I highly encourage you to keep exploring this fascinating $31.5 billion frontier.